Broke EAC, East Africa member countries yet to honor their contributions worth 15 billion US dollars. South Sudan peace. Generals allied to the country's Vice President Riek Machar to return to Juba. South Africa indicted. FIFA accuses the country of paying a $10 million bribe to host the 2010 World Cup.
Good evening, East Africa, and thank you for joining us on the program. I'm Ben Kitili from the KTN News Center here in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Bottomline East Africa begins now. We begin with reports reaching us a short while ago from the Kenya Defense Forces headquarters saying that 19 Al-Shabaab terrorists were on Wednesday killed by KDF soldiers under the AMISOM force in Afmado, Somalia. KDF spokesperson Colonel David Obonyo said the militants had approached the camp at night with the intent to attack and cut off the Somali National Army from the AMISOM KDF camp. He says the KDF soldiers on patrol identified the militants and engaged them in a fierce battle. The militants attempted to fight back but were swiftly repulsed by KDF, according to Colonel Obonyo. The attack is said to have happened at 1 a.m. near the AMISOM and the Somali National Army camps in Afmado in the lower Juba region. 10 AK-47 rifles and 3 rocket-propelled grenades were recovered, and 1 technical vehicle as well was destroyed. There were no casualties on the Kenyan side. On to news of a cash-strapped East African Community Secretariat following reports that member states have not made their contributions amounting to 15 million US dollars to the regional body. Partner states have over the years failed to remit the full amount pledged, leaving donor states to fund the EAC. Tanzania is said to be the largest defaulter, owing to the community some $5.5 million, followed by Uganda with $4.5 million in debt or arrears. Kenya is yet to remit $3 million, while Burundi owes a total of $2 million. Rwanda is the only member state that has fully paid up. The revelation was made by the East African Legislative Assembly Accounts Committee in a report tabled to the EALA during their session in Dar es Salaam. EALA Speaker Daniel Kidega spoke about the EAC's financial frustration.
The whole faces a huge challenge of funding. The situation as it is now is not very pleasant. Our partner states have not honored their obligations as required to date. They are varying in terms of commitments. We have consistently reminded the Council of Ministers on partner states that have not yet met their obligation. One of the things we do is naming and shaming by way of questions to the Council of Ministers.
Last time in the summit, it was one of the issues of the financial mechanism that would be able to make the East African community activities to stand on its own legs. Before 16th May, to be able to bring us a formula.
I have to first of all start by congratulating the Republic of Rwanda. Rwanda is one of the partner states that is up to date with its contribution to the community. As we speak today, this is the last quarter of the financial year, and the performance of the partner state, rather of the development partners, is way below 40%.
Shall be seeking to talk to the EALA speaker, that is Daniel Kidega, to just expound on what the latest is in this funding of the EAC. Now, staying in Tanzania, Tanzania's President John Pombe Magufuli has ordered a purge of 2,500 ghost workers from the civil service, saying they were claiming a monthly salary of about $1 million US dollars. This is the latest move by Magufuli, who was elected last year to tackle corruption in the Tanzanian government. He gave senior officials a 15-day deadline to remove their names from the government payroll, or else they will risk being sacked. The president said that tens of billions of shillings used to pay non-existent public workers annually could be used to improve social services. Tanzania government lost an estimated 2.5 billion Tanzania shillings every month in paying ghost workers. The government's monthly wage bill equals some 550 billion Tanzania shillings. President also directed the country's regional commissioners to end spiraling crime, especially in the border districts that has hindered the free movement of goods and services across the borders. Many thanks for staying with us here on Bottomline East Africa. You're watching KTN, you're watching Bottomline East Africa. Shall be taking a look at the latest that is coming from South Sudan following the news that has come to us that 23 generals are making their way to the capital, Juba, to prepare the way for Riek Machar to make his way into the South Sudanese capital. Let's just take you through a quick history of the youngest nation on the planet. That is what has been happening. Now, in 2011, South Sudan's got their independence. That is, of course, following that referendum in January 2011. And on the 9th of July 2011, South Sudan got its independence from Sudan, becoming the newest state in the world. Now, in 2013, that is when the problem began, and President Salva Kiir dismissed the entire cabinet, including his vice president, then Riek Machar, in a power struggle. And in December 2013, that is when civil war broke out in South Sudan. That is following that dismissal of that cabinet. Now, 2014, a ceasefire was signed in South Sudan, but was broken severally. That is on several occasions. That is in 2014. But then later on in the year, peace talks began, serious peace talks, this time in Addis Ababa. Now, in 2015, that is last year, in February, the beginning of the year, the general election scheduled in South Sudan were called off due to that ongoing conflict. But in August 2015, a big milestone for South Sudan, that is when a ceasefire agreement was reached, the peace agreement deal in Addis Ababa. In January this year, in January this year, that is 2016, Salva Kiir began implementing that peace deal. He named Riek Machar as his first vice president as part of that peace deal in a transitional government of unity. And that is where we are. Of course, later on in February, South Sudan became the newest member to be admitted in the East African community. A lot of eyes are on the EAC to see what will be the EAC's contribution to the conflict in South Sudan. We shall be talking very quickly to the South Sudanese ambassador to Kenya, Jimmy Deng. He's a friend of the show. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for coming to us.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
All right. 23 generals, let's just straight get into it, making their way to Juba. Many people have been wondering, when will Riek Machar make his way to the South Sudanese capital? Is this now the beginning of some movement, some speeding up of that peace deal?
Thank you for having me again. A point of correction, I am now the South Sudanese ambassador to Kenya. I'm chargé d'affaires in the embassy of the Republic of South Sudan in Kenya. So I just want to make that clarification to be known. Thank you for having me again. What I would like to say is our hope that Dr. Riek Machar and his forces can report to Juba as soon as possible, because we have been waiting. They have been saying they are coming next week, and as a result, the country is eager to see that Dr. Riek Machar comes to Juba and we can move forward in forming the government of national unity and for the peace to come to the country.
What is the plan of the rebel forces? You're saying that he is not going to come to the capital until the rebel forces are transferred to the different camps across the country. What is the exact plan?
I wish Riek would tell us that, because I think his advance team is in Juba. We are cooperating and implementing the peace. We fail to understand the reason why Dr. Riek Machar cannot report to Juba as of now. He has been appointed almost a month now since his appointment. So we are expecting him, and the president is eager, waiting for him to come to Juba so we can form the government of national unity.
Does this maybe show a bit of not animosity but a mistrust between Riek's forces and the government forces? They have fought in the past. Is this mistrust still there?
Of course, there will be fears that something could go wrong, but for the confident building. I think it's very important that we bring these two units together, put them into some kind of training, and let them work together. I think they have been together in the past because those who rebelled are those who were in the same system in the organized force. So the mistrust may not be that much. I think we agreed to sign the peace, and I think we are ready to implement the peace. We are already implementing the peace. So I think Dr. Riek Machar and his forces should just get to Juba so we move on with the rest of the other implementation of the peace agreement.
All right. And we are now being joined, of course, by John Garcia, policy analyst for East African Affairs. Thank you, sir, for coming to our studio. We were just talking with the ambassador here about the generals, Riek Machar generals, making their way to Juba. He has been appointed more than a month now, but he's yet to make his way to the capital. What do you make of that?
Well, thank you for having me. One is that perhaps to say that he is still trying to set the stage, trying to make sure that his security, all his personal security is taken care of. But perhaps there is a more underlying issue here, that he's trying to stretch this for as far as he can to try and bring in some of his people, and there are issues of that his movement is still not quite cohesive, indeed, especially within the military. And perhaps this is an early attempt to try and test the water, so to speak, while still trying to sort out a few home things that need to be sorted out. So it's really perhaps an indication that there is a lot that needs to be done within the security sector reforms.
Right. Are you worried this peace deal has been, not this one, of course we can't be pessimistic, but there has been peace agreements before which have been broken, ceasefire agreements. Are you worried that, are you certain that this time round, South Sudan is going to make some headway?
Ben, I would say this. If South Sudan does not take the opportunity now, time is running out for South Sudan. And perhaps it's more dangerous for South Sudan if this peace agreement does not make it. Now, why do I say this? Perhaps some figures come into mind. There are certain figures and statistics that put it this way, that there are over 5 million small arms and light weapons in the hands of civilians in South Sudan. That is by Small Arms Survey of Geneva. And that's way back, 2010, 2011. Now, in the course of what has happened in the last 2 years, I would like to imagine that that number could, almost certainly, could have gone higher. Is it 7 million? Is it 8 million? And Ben, look at it this way. You're having a country that has in excess of nearly half its population having small arms, having light weapons that are not under the control of either of the two parties. Now, then you come into what Riek's people have, what the president's, people have. And now, can you imagine? Let's say the population of South Sudan is what? Possibly in excess of 10, 11 million. And you're saying that we have over 5 million small arms and light weapons in civilian hands. So you really must, as a region, as the country, and as Africa, try to resolve that very serious issue. Now, will this peace process succeed? It has to, because the alternative then is mind-boggling.
Unpalatable. Right, Mr. Deng, do you agree with Garcia's